things that I just want to remind you of if you didn't know and tell you about, or if you've forgotten and tell you about them, because some of you guys don't know. So, in June, we got 2 letters from the city. The first letter said, you can't do your live streams from the building on Broad Street anymore. Okay, knew that might be coming. The next letter said, you can't do church from your house anymore. That one we didn't expect. We've been there 12 years. We've never had a complaint. We've never had a problem. And when we weren't using the house, suddenly we got a letter that said, you can't use the house. And it was a big weight, to be honest with you, because while we've been talking about moving for a long time, when someone else tells you you have to move, it's not as palatable when someone's feeding you as when you're feeding yourself, right? And in those moments, there was a little panic, there was a little frustration. I was really glad that they wouldn't tell us who made the complaints, because it's way better still not to know where any of that came from. But in the middle of it, God just really in His kindness began making very clear that this was not happening to us, this was happening for us. And so our initial response was what you would expect it to be. We've got to find a place in Burlington. And the city was so helpful to us because even though it was the city, it wasn't really the city. And so the mayor and others, they tried to find us another place to use in town, and just nothing worked out. The timing wasn't right, or the money wasn't right, or it just wasn't where we were supposed to be. And so then we started trying other churches in the city, and churches we partner with were welcoming, but nothing worked out. But 2 weeks before all of this had happened, Pastor Mike here at Grace, and you guys know Pastor Mike and I have been doing the Facebook twice a week together, and that we've been doing things here with Grace over the last couple of years, worship nights and Good Friday, and we had 40 days of prayer and all of those things together. 2 weeks before we got those letters, Pastor Mike said, I really need to talk to you. And so I sat down with him and he said, I don't know what this means and I don't know what this looks like, but when I've been praying for us lately, God keeps telling me we need to partner more. That our churches need to not just do stuff together, we need to partner together more. And so as soon as we got those letters, and I was flailing to find something in Burlington, God just reminded me of that conversation. And it was as if God paved the way. And so I called Pastor Mike, and he immediately said, whatever you need. We are partners, whatever you need. And so, God had prepared the way before we needed a way to be prepared. And God had prepared a place, and when you guys look around at this place, this is the best place we've ever used.
Amen.
But not just that, this place looks exactly like our plans to build our place. So what better way for God to get us ready than to put us in a place that's already set up exactly like the place we're working toward building now? And so this hasn't happened to us, it's happened for us. And Grace has not just said, you can use our building. They've said, we want to be partners together. And so everything you see us use here every week, from the sound equipment to the instruments to the computers, everything is theirs. And I said, we'll buy this. And they said, why would you buy it? We already have it. Everything. And they've joined us in the ministries we're doing. They've invited us to join them in the ministries they're doing. Amanda just started youth group, and it's Grace and City of Refuge doing youth group together. Like, God has given us partners.
Yes,
not just people that lent us their stuff. But people who want to run together, who want to walk together. And that's a reason to thank God.
Yes.
Because He's given us more than we could have ever had in and of ourselves. The other thing I want to tell you about, and only a couple of you know this because I wanted to wait to share it until it was the right time. But I guess we started doing in-person here in September. So we started live streaming on Saturday nights in August. So I think it was after our first Saturday night live stream, if I remember right. After our first Saturday night live stream, Melissa and I went home, and it's still weird to get home after church on Saturday nights. Even it's not quite as weird as Sunday morning, not knowing what to do with myself. But I'm getting trained, and you know what? Sunday's like a magical day when you don't have church. Just tell them. I'm not saying we're going to stick with Saturday nights, but I like Sunday mornings an awful lot right now. But we got home, and we'd had dinner, and we were just sitting down talking when we got a text message from pastors of a church in New York. And it's a church that actually started in Burlington, and then the pastor got transferred in his everyday job, and so they moved to New York, and God led them to start there. And I was on their elder board when they first started. It must have been 12 years ago, something in that nature. And they sent a text message and just said this: how much are your taxes on your building annually? So I went and looked it up, and I told them, and they said, the Journey Church of Hudson Valley is going to send a check for 1 year's worth of taxes by November 1st. And so out of nowhere, 2 weeks ago, we got a check from the Journey Church of Hudson Valley for $13,000 to pay for our taxes on our building for the next year. That's a reason to give thanks. So here's what I want us to do this month. We had these postcards made. They just have our new logo on them. If you turn them over, they're already stamped for you. Look how much. I knew what excuses you would make. They're already stamped for you. I would like every single one of us in City of Refuge, every single one of us, and if you're not part of City of Refuge, but you come here because Saturday night's easier, or you come here, then you go to your church on Sunday, I would like every single one of us to send a prayer of blessing or a word of thanks to Grace Fellowship Alliance, to Grace Alliance Chapel, and to the Journey Church of Hudson Valley. And so in your Connected this week are the addresses to both of those churches. And outside in the foyer, where on the island where the sink and everything is, there are 150 stamped postcards so that every one of you can take one of these and you can send a word of thanks or a prayer of blessing to those two churches. Because God has used them to sow into us. And my prayer is that we will just begin being used to sow into them thanksgiving and blessing and grace and mercy. And when the opportunity arises that they're in need, that we will be ready and present to actually sow into them as well. And then there are extra postcards. So here's the other thing that I want you to do. I want you to think of and pray for one person that God has used to bless you during this last 9 months. Would you just take a postcard and just send them a word of thanks or a prayer of blessing? Just to let them know that, you know what, during this time that we keep talking about how difficult it's been, I've actually seen God's goodness because of you. And so would you take these? There are more. If we run out, there'll be more next week. But I want us to make this month a month of Thanksgiving. Not where we look forward to the day where we celebrate it, but where we just give thanks. And where we stop and we really think about what God's done for us. Because I'll be honest, there have been some things that have been hard. This has been some of the best months of ministry in my 25 years of ministry. There have been things God has done in these last 9 months that He could not have done if things stayed the way that they were. There are doors that have opened that would not have been open. And so let's see and reflect upon and give thanks for what God has done. We can all sit and talk about what we didn't get to do. I know vacations got canceled and graduations changed and all that stuff. But what has God done? Because I really do believe this. There are things He has done that are greater than anything that didn't get to be done. If we'll choose to see what He's done in the way that it needs to be seen. So please grab those on your way out.